Hola.
Y bienvenidos, niños de Madera Verde. Did you understand what we were saying? Probably not. So today we're going to be talking about communication and love languages and how we can better understand one another. First off, we have a funny story that Miss Judy's going to share with us that happened down in Mexico, right?
It did. Kind of a cool story. A long time ago, there was an old country sheriff, and he knew about a bank robber that had created a crime here in the States. And he knew that bank robber ran off to Mexico with a lot of money that didn't belong to him. And so he got down there, he traveled down to Mexico, and he was able to find the bank robber and arrested him. But the sheriff spoke English and the bank robber didn't. He spoke Spanish, and so he hired a translator. Once they got to talking, and the sheriff got the translator to tell him, "Tell me where the money is." And the bank robber wouldn't do it. And the translator kept saying, "The sheriff wants to know where that money is." Finally, the bank robber said, okay. He told the translator in Spanish where the money was hidden. And the translator said to the sheriff, "He's not going to tell you." So the sheriff never did find out where the money is, and the bank robber got punished, but the translator knew where the money was.
That's a funny story about how translation matters, and if we can't understand each other, sometimes we have things happen that shouldn't have happened. So today we're going to be talking about love languages, which is basically how we relate to one another, how we receive love, and how we give love, right? To start off though, I wanted to share a story with you guys about a guy with the last name Strauss, and he studied primates, which is like monkeys and lemurs and stuff. And he was studying 10 different kinds of primates, and he would go out and just spend time with them all day long and learn what their different calls meant, what their different ways of talking meant to each other. And he knew all of the calls that they would make for predators. So if a monkey was on the ground, the rest of the monkeys and its family would call to it and let it know that there was something in the area that was dangerous. Well, one day he was walking through the forest and he noticed there were no monkeys on the ground, but all 10 different kinds of monkeys were sending out their call for danger. And he looked behind him and there was a leopard stalking him. So he recognized that the monkeys were actually warning him because from him being around so long, they had accepted him as one of their own. So understanding people also helps protect us from things in life. And when we understand how people receive love and give love, it helps us understand how we function and operate and helps us in our friendships. So Miss Judy actually was talking to me earlier this week about how understanding love language has really added to her relationships and added to her marriage even. So I'm going to let her talk to y'all about some of that now.
It's really important, not only in marriage, but just to understand how to communicate with other people. And we show love and accept love in so many different ways. Most of you know I'm a touch person. I like hugs. But one time when I found out and understood what it meant to communicate better, I realized that Jay's love language, my husband, his love language was acts of service. In other words, he responded to love when I did something nice for him. And so one time, his windshield on his truck was really bad, dirty, bugs, guts everywhere. So I cleaned it. After he went to bed one night, I went out there and got it all clean. And he found it the next morning when he went to work, and it was real early, so he didn't wake me up. But later on, he was so happy. He felt so loved because I took time to do that for him. He sent me flowers. Wow. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Before we go on, we've talked about 2 different kinds of love languages. We've said physical touch and we've said acts of service. And so we're going to go through kind of what the different love languages are. And to help y'all think about them, we've paired them with an animal to help you remember. So the first one, physical touch. So to remember physical touch, people that love physical touch, they like being touched a lot, they like being loved on, they like getting hugs, and that's how they feel like they're appreciated and accepted. So elephants relate to each other through physical touch, and they will use them and wrap their trunks, and they'll wrap them around each other and like hug each other, or they'll reach out and grab their babies, or the babies might grab mama's tail with its trunk. So when we think of physical touch, we can think of elephants. What would you say is another one, Miss Judy?
Words of affirmation. That may sound like a big phrase to you guys, but when you say something nice or say something good or encouraging about someone or to someone, you did a good job, way to go, I'm proud of you, those kind of words that affirm that person. And so it kind of makes me think about parrots. You know, they like to say things, they like to talk, and they'll say a lot of good things. So we might connect parrots with words of affirmation.
Very good. Another one, gifts. So whenever we talk about gifts, it's people that like to receive gifts. Maybe a sticker that says good job, or maybe you give your mom flowers and she really appreciates it. So another animal that likes to receive gifts is a penguin. Penguins, whenever they're finding their partner for life, the male penguin will give the female penguin a rock. And if she accepts the rock, then it means that she accepts him. And they're together for the rest of their lives. When we think of gifts, we can think of penguins in that way. What about another one? Do you have one?
I do. Quality time. We all like to have people that take time to just spend all afternoon with us, or to spend time with us, and to make a choice to spend time with a person rather than a game or a phone or something like that. I have 4 dogs, and they all love it when I take time to play with them and love on them. And they show love back to me like that. They like to snuggle and play and spend that time together. And that's real important.
Awesome. For acts of service, the one that I could think of was a fish, because you feed them, you clean out their tank. I mean, I don't really think fish would be physical touch because I've never pet a fish, but...
Oh,
yeah.
I might almost disagree.
Really?
I think fish do... I think if they like physical touch, I think that's their love language. I think they communicate with touch.
Really?
Do y'all not pet your fish?
I've never pet any fish.
I just thought everybody did. I pet my fish all the time. I have a lot of them.
Do you have a video of that to show us?
I do. I would love to share that.
Well, let's see it.
Here he is. Here he is. Come here. Hey. Come here.
Wow, that's super cool. I had no idea that you could pet fish like that. So did it take you a while to be able to do that?
I had to start out gradual when they were little babies, and they got used to me, but they respond to it.
Nice.
Yeah, it took a while, but
We're going to have to try that with somebody else's fish because I don't have any. And I don't think the ones in the pond will do that. We are going to look at the Bible to see how a guy named Paul actually loved people in different ways too. And he adapted the way that he acted in the way that he did things in order to reach people for Jesus. We're going to be in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 19 through 23. He says, "Though I am free and belong to no man, I make myself a slave to everyone." That means that he tries to reach everyone, or tries to engage with everybody. He says, to win as many people as possible. To the Jews, I become like a Jew to win the Jews. To those under the law, I become like those under the law, though I myself am not under the law, so as to win those under the law. To those not having the law, I became like one not having the law, though I am not free from God's law, but am under Christ's law, so as to win those not having the law. To the weak, I became weak to win the weak. I have become all things to all men, so that by all possible means I might save some. I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings. So he's saying, for all the different kinds of people, he tried to relate to them and to understand them, so that when he told them about Jesus, it was in a way that they could accept it and that they could accept Christ. Whenever we talk about love languages, just because I like quality time and I like physical touch doesn't mean that somebody else is going to like the same thing. So I might have to change my approach and realize what they prefer and use that in order to reach them best. Like Miss Judy loves physical touch, so if I want to show Miss Judy that I love her, I would give her lots of hugs. But maybe she doesn't like words of affirmation, so maybe they make her feel awkward, and if I tell her all the time that she's great, even though she is great, it might not make her feel loved as much as giving her a hug or something like that. How do you think that we could maybe practice this at home or with our parents and friends and family and stuff?
Well, I think it's so important to understand sometimes being a kid and dealing with your parents and them dealing with you, it can be hard. And especially if you're not communicating, and that means you're not speaking the same language. If you can find out what makes your parents tick, what you're doing or what you're saying, you can say that in a way that will really communicate love to them. But you got to know what language they're speaking. Does your mom prefer words of affirmation, or does she just want you to hug her? Does your dad want you to hug him, or would he rather you just sit and talk to him? You kind of have to ask them or try to find out, I think, to understand what they look at their love language being.
Yeah, I think sometimes, like you said, sometimes we try things and we realize it didn't work as well, and so we try something new, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe try washing their windshields and see if they appreciate it. Go. But what would you say has helped you the most with just trying to understand this? What would you say is your best way that you've determined people's love languages?
Well, I think actually just kind of trial and error. You can kind of see how somebody responds. Like at Greenwood, we're all about, well, good morning, it's good to see you, and hugging and touching. And if they don't respond, or if they kind of back away from that, maybe they didn't grow up in a home that everybody hugged everybody. So you might kind of learn from that, and it may be that you could just do something for them, and that might mean all the difference in the world for them. Help your mom get groceries out of the car might mean a whole lot more to her than you just saying, Mom, I love you. And so you just kind of have to figure it out. You have to talk to them and just kind of watch them and see what works. Do your best to try and ask the Lord to help you.
I love that. I know whenever I was thinking of the ways that people show love, I thought of the lepers, even in the community back then, and how a lot of them, they probably desired to be loved in a physical way because people wouldn't touch them and they thought that they were unclean. But Jesus actually reached out and healed them, and just that simple act probably made them feel really loved and accepted that they hadn't felt in a while. So sometimes it might look like doing things for people that other people won't. If it's somebody that maybe is a little bit weird that people don't hang out with, maybe it's going and spending a whole day with them, Or if it's somebody that people don't tell that they're beautiful enough, then maybe it's taking the time to tell them that God created them perfectly. This week we had just kind of a small assignment for you guys, which what would you say would be their homework for this week?
See if you can figure out just maybe one love language from your parents, and you may not even know what your own love language is. Think about what would communicate love to you the most. If you had a choice, would you rather someone hold your hand to hug you, or would you rather them make up your bed for you or clean up your room? Would you rather them talk about how cute you are and how good you look and what a good job you did on the yard or on your homework? Would you rather somebody just spend time with you walking around in the pasture or at your house or watching TV and reading a book together? What is it that makes you feel loved? There's something that stands out with each of us. We can kind of find that out. And it's the same thing with your parents. Probably all of your parents want to spend time with you. So you just have to kind of, I think, make a choice of trying to figure out what your love language is, and then maybe one or both of your parents what you think theirs is. You may have to even ask them. Ask them, would they rather you hug them, do something for them, say something nice about them to them, those kind of things.
Maybe they like all of them, but they just like one more. So it's not necessarily that we dislike the others all the time, but sometimes it's that one just means a little bit more to us. So we just wanted to share this with you guys because we think that the world needs a lot of love right now, and we want to make sure that we show people love as effectively as we can, meaning we do it as well as we can so that other people can be won, like Paul said, to the gospel, meaning that they can accept Jesus and that they can know Jesus better. That's all we have for you, right?
Yes.
Got anything else?
I think that's it.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Love y'all.